Pete joins us now. When did you talk to Manti Te'o, Pete?
Well, I'll rewind a little bit, Dan. I actually spent 4 days on campus the week of the Michigan game, which was late September. Notre Dame didn't let him talk to the media. They had beat Michigan State on the road. It was a very big win. They were 3-0 or 4-0, and everyone was saying, are the Irish back, blah, blah, blah. And I got there on Wednesday, and the deal was that I could do all my other reporting, and I could talk to Te'o on Sunday. So it was interesting because as Sunday approached, the only information I really didn't have about him, and he's a dynamic, interesting kid, a Mormon background, Eagle Scout, service-oriented, et cetera, a lot more depth than your normal college student. The only thing really missing from my story was some of the details about Lene. And so, it was to the point where, I went back over all the interviews I did there last night, and I remember I went at lunch with the priest of Dillon Hall, who lived 2 doors down from Manti, and not only was Manti obviously duped here, but the entire campus was duped to the point where Father Paul Doyle said to me, I think I met the girl last year. I gave Manti a prayer card this week, or I'm going to give him a prayer card tomorrow that says the men of Dillon Hall are praying for him for his loss. Theo Riddick and Sear Wood talked to me about Manti going up in front of the team and telling them about his girlfriend's death. Brian Kelly told me it was the most, one of the most unique experiences in his 18, 22 years of being a head coach. Bob Diaco described in detail the moment Manti Te'o got the phone call from a relative of Lene in the locker room that she had passed. Robbie Toma his roommate, walked me through the same scenario. So by the time I got to Manti Te'o on Sunday, there wasn't a whole lot of, does she exist thinking in my head. Mm-hmm. I did, Gene Wojciechowski, I saw, said this yesterday, I did look for an obituary. I did look for a death notice. I did look on Nexus Lexus to see if she existed. I didn't find anything in those. And in some sense, I communicated that while we were fact-checking to my editors, but there were small red flags, but for example, I did the story on Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu doesn't have a Nexus Lexus imprint, or it didn't in October. It's not uncommon. In 15 years of covering college sports and putting plenty of kids' names through LexisNexis, which is I'm trying to think of the best way to explain it. It's a public document search. Sometimes when you're 20 and 21, you don't have a footprint. I would say it's probably 50-50 for people around the age of 20.
But Te'o, he gets the phone call in the locker room that his girlfriend has died. Correct.
And then Kelly tells me the story that he gets out of a staff meeting and there's 10 guys sitting around supporting him. So, yeah, his grandmother had died, and he got the call at 7 that morning. And then the story was from him and all the others, 5 hours later, he gets the call. Now, I'd also talked to his dad. I spoke to his dad for 2 hours, Brian Te'o, and he's a prince of a guy. And the dad told me that Lene had texted him her condolences, and she had called him, and they had spoken. It wasn't, the worst. This is actually the best one. I'd forgotten I even talked to this kid. There's a kid named Dalton Hilliard, who was a safety at UCLA, and Manti, Robbie Toma, and Dalton Hilliard were best friends at Punahou, which is Barack Obama's high school in Hawaii, where they all went. So Dalton Hilliard, when I interviewed him the day or two before I went to campus, told me he'd never met her, but she tweeted and texted at him before all the games. And he gave me some elaborate quote about that, just shows how much she knew I respected Manti. The amount of people duped here far transcends Manti Te'o.
But how big is this, though, Pete? How does it start? And at any point do you think Manti Te'o plays a role in this?
I honestly don't, Dan. And look, I've obviously already been maybe branded a little bit naive for writing what I did, but I don't think he has it in him to be part of this. I think he was duped hook, line, and sinker. We probably talked about Lene, in my interview, I'm going to write something later today for SI.com, for about 45 minutes. They had October 15th was the sort of their anniversary. There was, there's a whole story about how they met. There's a whole level of detail there where when those little red flags, oh, she didn't show up in Nexus, oh, I can't find her brother's name to spell check it. Like, it just, you were able to write around it because you had a whole football team, university, community, and country. She'd been, quote unquote, dead for a week by the time I got there. There just wasn't a whole lot of. I got a text from a reporter friend last night. He was like, "The dead girlfriend doesn't exist. Isn't in the reporter equation at that point."
Final 30 seconds, if you can sum it up. When you first saw the Deadspin story, your reaction was what?
My reaction was surprise, but as soon as they went into LexisNexis and some of the other stuff, it's just sort of that punch in the gut where it's like, oh boy, oh boy. And Jack Swarbrick's press conference last night, he called Manti the perfect mark, and that's something that'll resonate with me for a long time because he was the perfect mark. And my real emotion, I guess, since this all broke last night, is I feel really bad for that kid, Dan. I feel really bad for that kid because he got world-class duped, and this is something that I hope doesn't track with him the rest of his career because I genuinely believe he's a good kid.
Pete, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Take care.
All right. Pete Thamel, Sports Illustrated.